getting a little wild out there. It's getting a little wild out there. People are forgetting who they are and getting caught up in this frenzy of other people. And I want to talk about something for a moment. So I've had a few friends message me this past week to say how frustrated they are with a certain conversation that keeps on coming up. A conversation they can't seem to go a day without being drawn into. And it starts with someone asking, "Did you get it? Are you going to get it?" How many of you have had this question asked of you over the last little while? There seems to be a surge of people becoming awkwardly emboldened to ask another person a personal question about their health because they believe that what another person puts in their body does impact their health. If you put something in your body, it's going to affect me. This is the belief of the person asking you questions that are, quite frankly, none of their business. Now, for those of you I don't know that there's anyone on here that may be the one asking questions that are none of your business. But if that is you, is this the first time in your life where your health was directly influenced by the people around you? No, it's not the first time. In fact, your health has always been affected by the people around you. Always. Your social circle has always influenced your health. This is fact. In fact, there's been research done on this. Your social circle greatly influences what you deem to be acceptable or normal when it comes to the decisions you make for your own body. So this is true, yes, but this is not what this live is about today, and I'm going to keep this short. This is about how to handle people who ask questions they have no business asking you, such as, "Are you going to get it? Did you get it?" None of your business. But let's flow chart this out. Some things just need a good flow chart. So I think after I'm done, I'll take a picture of this and put it on stories. So when someone asks you something that is none of their business, first of all, remember, come back into your power for a moment and remember it is none of their business. And if you do decide to respond, let's talk about what that could look like, but you don't have to respond. You can change the subject, you can talk about the Lakers, you can talk about the weather, or you might say, "Have a good day," and move on. But let's have some fun with this. You guys into this topic? Have any of you been on the other end of one of these quite ignorant questions over the past few weeks? I mean, it is getting wild out there. So when someone asks you a question that is none of their business, the first part of the flow chart goes like this. Have they known you longer than a month? No? If they haven't known you longer than a month, here's something you could say. "Well, I don't fault you for asking this question since you don't know me very well yet." And then you could clarify your response. I'm going to go into the first part of this assuming that you're somebody who will not ever do the thing, okay? Hold your ground. You just say, "I don't fault you for asking that question because you don't know me very well." If someone who does know you very well, even to keep it simple, if they've known you more than a month, asks you a question like this, what a great opportunity to say something like this. Clarify your answer, but then say, "It concerns me that you asked me this question because you've known me for XYZ number of months or years or whatever. Since you know me quite well, would you be so kind as to give me constructive feedback on where in my life I need to clarify who I am in a stronger way so that I don't even need to answer this question? Where do I need to in my life come into greater alignment so that you wouldn't have even needed to ask me this question? Because keep in mind, when someone's asking you a question that is truly none of their business, they're either ignorant, or they don't know you, or you've been sending out mixed signals. So it's an opportunity to clean it up, to come into tighter alignment. Now, at this point in our flow chart, I'm being a bit of a goof right now, but honestly, it's all we can do anymore. At this point in our flow chart, a cascade of further questions may emerge. So I'm going to go through the top 3 questions that will probably come at this point. So this person who felt emboldened to ask you this question that was none of their business will probably say something along the lines of this script. So you don't want to travel? You don't want to go to concerts? You don't want to go to events? You don't want to live your life? To which you could respond with, well, yes, I do. And I will be part of the collective that creates the new economy that will emerge from this time. Something I want to make really clear. As we are going through this messy middle right now, there are 2 worlds emerging. If you don't see this yet, let me assure you there are 2 worlds emerging. The world that we are creating through this may not be showing itself yet in the physical, but it's happening. There will be 2 worlds that emerge from this. So when someone says to you, well, don't you want to travel? Don't you want to go to events? Don't you want to go to concerts and movie theaters and blah, blah, blah? You might clarify for them that there are pieces of the old life that don't appeal to you anymore. I can confidently say that. There are things we used to do that I've completely lost my taste for. But when it comes to things like travel, yes, Maggie, it's really important for us all to understand that there is something very powerful emerging right now because of the collective that is holding a vision and moving into that vision and literally living in that new way already, that we're going to bring it in. You also have to realize that there is a large majority of people who are standing with you and holding their ground. And because of that, a whole new economy will emerge, a whole new economy. Whatever limitation you feel like you might experience by not sacrificing yourself to keep the old, whatever you're holding on to from the old will be even better in the new. So that's usually question number 1 that will come. Question number 2 often sounds something like, but what about your elderly family members? Don't you want to hug them again? Now, this is an invitation for you to be love in this moment. If you have family members who have been living in fear and they have felt that getting a needle was the only way for them to feel safer, to be able to be around you, perhaps around their grandchildren again, first of all, can you imagine how that must feel for them to be so in fear that they could not hug their grandchildren? That is heartbreaking. And we must really feel the empathy and have compassion for someone that would be hurting so hard in that way. If someone was to ask me this, I would let them know that we never stopped hugging. We're big time huggers in our family. But that if someone in my family felt that they needed to have a needle in order to feel safer to hug again, I fully honor their decision. This is a very important piece of this entire process right now, is there are people that are so scared. You can't even imagine what it feels like to live in their body right now. They have been convinced that everything out there is against them. They're scared to leave their homes. They're scared to hug their grandchildren. You see it in people, right? So there is a group of people that they are going to sleep better. They are going to hug their grandkids again. They are going to be able to come back to some form of a life they recognize because of making the decision to. Not all people, though. And there's some of you on right now, I'm sure, who are really struggling with this decision. The other question that might come is, so what about your kids? Don't you want your kids to be able to go to school and socialize with other kids and have, the life that they had before? Because this question's coming, guys. This is coming in this coming year. You're going to see, as this picks up, the systems that need to collapse, you're going to see them get louder, shrieking, moving into just a real tight grip to hold on to the old, right? So what you're going to see, unfortunately, happen, you're going to see this happen within the school systems. They're coming for kids. Now, teachers, you play a very important role in this, as do nurses and doctors right now. There's a lot riding on you coming together right now to be truthful and to speak up. And I know that puts you in a very scary position because you may feel alone. But what you will find is you are not alone. In fact, there are people who sometimes need one person to find their voice to start bringing it all together. And that person may just be you within your school, within your board, within your hospital. But this is going to happen. And so if this question comes to you, what about your kids? Don't you want them to be able to go to school? You might say something like, well, let me clarify for you what I hold highest as my role as a mother or father, and that is to protect these beings that were blessed to me. Before anything else, above all else, to protect them. And so if that means that we will have to homeschool, then so be it. And we will find a way, even though right now I don't know how to do that. I don't know how that's going to happen. We will find a way. P.S. You guys know we made the decision to pull our kids last year at this time and homeschool. We had no clue what we were doing. In fact, maybe Chris and I should hop on in a month or two and just talk about this past year, what we learned. And I mean, it's anything new like that is going to create instability in the home. And, it's scary sometimes to change things up. But what we're coming to here is when you know what your highest conviction is as a parent, if you feel what I just said, if you believe that your role as a parent is to protect your children first and foremost, then you will figure it out. You will figure it out. I know that's a stressful point for so many families. The money, the time, you'll figure it out. Last question you may face, and this is probably the juiciest, to be honest, is, aren't you afraid of what people will think of you? This is the big one that everyone, truly, if everyone's being honest, this is guiding this decision for a lot of people. They just so desperately want to fit in. And not in a weird way, in a very normal way. It's not weird to want to fit in and be accepted. I think that's a very human need, survival instinct, to want to feel that you are a part of something and that you're not the outcast. I totally get it. But we are at a moment in time where, first of all, the very people that worry about what people will think of them are the ones that need to experience somebody, you, holding your ground. Because people who live in fear of what people will think of them, they just have not experienced that fierceness, that conviction in another person of holding their ground. And you are such a gift to people when you do this, because you give them permission to consider this for themselves at a minimum, but to really see and feel what that looks like, to hold your ground and not worry about what people will think of you. I don't know if this has ever been more important than it is right now in this decision, in this moment we are living through. But also in this social media world where everything's out there, where people you don't even know can come at you and push their stuff on you. This has never been as big of a problem as it is right now. And this is probably the toughest part of making a decision that is unpopular. But here's what's true. If somebody is willing to give a part of their freedom and their bodily sovereignty away simply to gain the approval of others, they lose a whole lot more in that process. I said this on my live the other day. If you are feeling conviction around whether it be this decision or any decision you're making in your life, and you just don't know what you're going to do, even though you know in your heart what you should do, because only you know, if you make a decision that contradicts what you know you should do, you're going to be climbing a mountain from here on out. Because to betray yourself in moments like this is really heavy. It's costly. It's not like you're going to do permanent damage here in that sense, but you're going to have to climb quite a big mountain to come home to yourself again. Now let's say everything I just said just doesn't appeal. Maybe you don't want to go through those lines of questions. One question that you could ask back, which will probably halt the conversation right there, is to say that you haven't made your decision yet because you haven't been able to determine who is liable if this causes life-altering injuries or death. And then flip it back on the person asking you the question that is none of their business. Ask them if they've been able to determine who is liable if this causes permanent damages or death. Because you might just open their eyes a little bit too through that. But if you want to have some fun, I have some questions that you can ask back. I love a good question. I love words. Words hold power. If we're asking the right question in times like this, we're going to come to the right solution. I shared something on my stories last night about a Toyota plant in Ontario that shut down a mandate that was trying to come because they asked the right questions. When you ask the right questions, you come to the right solution. So if you want to have a little bit of fun with somebody, you could just simply reply back asking them a question that's none of your business. Such as, when was the last time they had an orgasm? When do they plan to be out of debt? Why haven't they had more kids? Why haven't they done more with their life? Or whatever question comes to mind under the heading of none of your business, right? If someone's asking you a question, you guys, that is truly none of their business, such as, are you going to get the just flip it right back. It'll shut that conversation down so quick. Now, listen, I know there are people on here right now that have made the decision to get the It's great. That's great. That's okay. If you are for it, own it. Keep sharing with people why you've made that decision. If you want to, you don't have to, but stand behind your decision. And when people ask you why you did get it, if you feel comfortable answering it, share with them. Share what research you did and what helped you come to that conclusion, because maybe you'll help another person along the way. But it is not your responsibility to educate other people in this way. It just isn't. In fact, I think those times are done. Those times are really done. What someone else does with their body is none of your business, and it is also not your responsibility. No one can make this decision for you, and that is what makes this time really hard. And truthfully, this is a lot of why people are asking this question that is none of their business. It's because they just don't know what to do. They're struggling with some of these things that we've just gone through, the fear of what other people will think of them. What will this mean for their kids if they can't go to school because kids don't have the Will they be able to travel again? There's a lot of these things people are holding on so tight to. But when we do that, we miss the point of the world we all have the opportunity to create through this. This decision is only up to you. Own it. Own it. It's not up to anybody else to make that decision, to question that decision, or to influence that decision. And that is what us warriors of this beautiful earth are fighting to protect. That remains your decision. Honor each other and what they decide to do. That is also none of your business. You should not have feelings about what other people decide to do. Decide for you, decide for your body. Be clear on what you're doing. And my goodness, as you go out into the world and how crazy and wild it feels right now, know who you are, hold your ground, have a strong posture, because you just might help another person in ways that you can't even fathom by being who you are and holding strong to that. I just want to read some of your comments because they don't save after you come off of a live. Let me scroll back up. Mallory was commenting on the vision for creating the new. Yeah, what a time for creatives to create new avenues to do these things. These airlines, you guys, they're gonna be in the graveyard. I'm sorry, but do you know how affordable new airlines, even charter private flights, are going to be in the coming years? Because the demand is going to increase. What you used to pay to sit maybe with a little more legroom will be the price to fly private. Cool. I was really feeling this topic today because honestly, probably every day this week, somebody has messaged me like, ugh, I'm just so tired of this conversation and people asking. I've only had like one person when I was on live ask me. I've never had anybody ask me to my face. But you just gotta be ready. You gotta be ready. You gotta be prepared. We were teaching the kids. Chris was taking the kids through an awesome little CPR lesson this morning. And, it brought up some feelings for them. Like, I don't want to know how to do this because I don't want to think I would ever have to do this. And so we were talking about how, you want to be prepared for in those moments you might be scared. And that's no different than this here. Be prepared. Know who you are so that when these conversations happen, you handle them with grace. Yeah, a few of you are asking about research and where to begin. You're right. Unfortunately, so much information has been wiped off. I don't know what else to say here except for sit with that even. Why has that happened? If you have a doctor that you trust, see if they're open to having some conversations with you. There are really great doctors out there who are very concerned about what's happening right now. So I don't even know where to tell you to start. I began a lot of this research 12 years ago. You would not believe how many links I've saved over the years that are gone, wiped. So I know it's hard. You've got to come into your heart. I think again with this decision, I'll reiterate, anything that has a risk needs to be left as a choice. Absolutely. And if we are moving into this world where they're trying to mandate something that has risk, that's where you're going to see the new world emerge. So don't make a quick decision with this. It's probably the best advice I can give you. Working as a frontline healthcare worker, the question is non-stop. but I have chosen to share info slowly to patients if they are open, of course. Beautiful. Thank you. I find people have 3 big blocks around standing and sovereignty. Fear of what others think. They don't something, I think we missed a word here. They don't something their own body and have belief in their immune system, or they don't want to be inconvenienced. Yeah. That's a big one. I've talked about this over the years. There's 2 areas where I've always found it really odd when we talk about being inconvenienced. The first is not putting shopping carts back. The second is when you're at an airport and there's a whole row of stairs right next to an escalator, and how many people will take the escalator and not the stairs. Because you're right, being inconvenienced sometimes is the highest motive, not wanting to be, I should say. Your intuition will play a huge role in making this decision as well. Research is important, but your intuition is usually going to steer you in the right direction. Absolutely. I want to also expand on that. That's a really important point. Last year when I was sharing a lot of this info and people thought I was nuts, I was sharing why I could feel where things were going and what helped me look in the right ways to be able to plan forward, to be able to plan what we're doing right now last year at this time. And what I have felt throughout the years as I've focused on keeping my vessel clean, in not in obsessive ways, but in the best ways I can control. When you're not medicating yourself on a daily basis, when you're not drinking alcohol on a daily basis, when you're focused on good, clean water and whole, nourishing foods and prayer, there are things that will come to you. I think of this as the Holy Spirit. There are soul taps that happen. And sometimes it sounds like, look here, go here, write this, say this, study this. It's nudges along the way. And maybe you do refer to that as your intuition or the Holy Spirit or God or Source. Listen, great. If you have a way of understanding what's happening beyond what mainstream media will tell you, beyond what published research journals will tell you, you're on the right track, because you'll never be able to truly come to a place of knowing. Even if you were to read something that just really contradicts what you know in your soul to be true, if you do that thing because a paper told you to and you didn't follow what you knew to be true, again, you're betraying yourself. And what happens next is heavy. This is why I believe so many people live with debilitating anxiety, is that they are not living true to who they are. They're putting on a show. And it separates themselves every single day. They're putting something out here and it's not who they are. Social media has done that big time. How many times do you meet somebody in person and they're nothing like what you thought they would be? Because there was a separation. They're putting something out here that was not who they are in here. And that creates separation, which creates anxiety in the body. So yeah, I love that comment, Charlotte. Intuition trumps all. All right. Okay, I'm gonna go. Thanks for hanging live. I'll save this to my grid. Listen, look forward to these conversations with people, because you have the opportunity to be an example to another person of what it looks like to live your life with conviction and hold your ground.